we have looked at flex time in detail, so let's look at the other half of the flex function in Logic, flex pitch. As you can guess, it is similar to flex time, but for pitch. So we can change the pitch of a note, adjust the vibrato, adjust the volume of it, split it, change the pitch drift at the end and start of a note, and of course extend or compress its length. As before, either press Command and F as in Foxtrot to enable flex, or simply click up here. So and then let's enable flex here. It will go to flex time, that's fine. You can change that to flex pitch. Now, depending on which window you're using and how zoomed in you are, the view will be different. So in the tracks area, if you're not vertically zoomed in all the way, then you get this view down here. Which doesn't give you all the parameters you can use to manipulate the sound, but you can still see the pitch deviation of each note, which is represented by these bars here, which I can grab and quickly change the pitch. And the pitch deviation is from each note refers to its perfect semitone, the semitone that is closest to that note. And the vertical display is plus minus 0.5 cents. So even if I grab all of these notes and put them to the horizontal 0 line, which represents perfect pitch, you won't hear much of a difference because the singer is in tune. And the way to make a selection is simply to just drag everything. Actually, let's listen to the before. Let's take the effects off and let's solo it. That's the before. My heart dangles from a string. So if I grab everything and put it to 0 to perfect pitch. And let's listen now. My heart dangles from a string. Now, as you can hear, not much of a difference. Let's go back. So upward bars represent sharp notes and downward bars represent flat notes. Now you'll see that if we zoom in further, this window will be lost. We go into that view. So before we move on, let's double click on a MIDI track to bring up the piano roll, and you can see that we have the notes here that are represented by these bars. And each bar represents a note on the piano, which you can see here on the left. And the length of the bar represents the length of the note. So when we look at the flexed notes, let me zoom in a bit, you can see that it is represented the same way. Of course, in the tracks area window, we don't get the piano roll to the left. And that is the reason why I prefer to work with flex pitch on its own window. So as before, double click on it, then go to track, and then turn on flex again. It will go to flex pitch automatically, and now we have the same system as with MIDI. But before we move on, let's actually change the color to something easier to see. So Option and C. Yeah, better. Yeah, let's go with that one. Now the first thing that I do, let's make this one a bit bigger. The first thing that I do before I do any corrections or tuning is to check if it has detected all the notes. As you can see, certain parts, like this one, do not extend all the way, so there's nothing here or here or here. But it can be an S sound, but you have to check first. So let's have a listen. My heart. It's probably hates. That's an S. And that's string, that's an S as well. Okay, so everything looks fine. The algorithm was smart enough to recognize that these were not notes and just sibilants. So, but let's make an example. So let's delete that note here and pretend, let's assume that it did not detect it. Now if I want to add a note, I change my secondary tool to the pencil tool. If you want to freshen up the tools, that's video 24 of the series. And then with my pencil, I click and hold, so command, then I click and hold. This blue line appears. I do not let go yet. I need to drag it to the beginning of the transient. So I go here, the beginning of the transient, and then I let go. And let's listen back to the problem now.
Dangles from a string, from a string.
So the problem is that in whatever note I create the note on the piano roll, it will keep that pitch. In our case, that's a B. So to put it where it needs to be, right click on it and go to set to original pitch, and we will put it where it needs to be. So let's see if that fixed it.
Dangles from a string.
It's fine. To delete a note, you simply select it and then press delete on your keyboard. So let's go back. Now another thing that may happen is that the algorithm might not detect two independent notes. So we have a pretty good analysis, but let's look at another example. Okay, let's look at this one.
Afraid I won't be barred.
Okay, this word here.
I won't be barred.
I won't.
I won't be.
Okay, this could be two notes. To be honest, I would not touch it. I would leave it as is. But for the sake of this tutorial, let's do it. But normally, do not be that fussy about it. It's a very small detail. So two ways of splitting a note. One with the scissor tools and one with a pencil. Now let's try the pencil first because it's already selected. Remember, where I place my pencil will affect the pitch. So let's see where we're going to split first. Let's say here, the one starts here. So I put my pencil here, and then I drag the beginning of what I think is the beginning of the word. Again, it just took it down.
I won't be barred.
Right click, set to original pitch.
I won't be barred.
So that's one way of doing it. It's Command Z, and the other way is with the scissors tool. So Command, go to where you want to split, and then simply split it.
I won't be barred.
And that's it. To do the opposite, join them, well, you can guess it, I'm sure, you can use the glue tool. So let's change to that. Select both notes, Command, and then glue them together. Set to original pitch.
I won't be barred.
That is fine, so let's go to the beginning. Now let's look at what else we have. Let's zoom in a bit. And when you hover your mouse above its bar, you can see that these little circles appear. These are called hotspots, and each of them has a different function. So let's take it from the top left. It says this one controls pitch drift, and we have two of these, one on the upper left corner and one on the upper right corner. And this has to do with the fluctuations in a pitch at the beginning and end of the note. And that is the reason why they're placed like that, at the beginning and end of the note, so that we can adjust it. Now, if you see that line in the bar, that represents both the vibrato and the pitch fluctuations. For example, in this note here, you can see that he comes in from a lower pitch and then goes into the note and stays there. Same here, and with this one he just comes in straight away. But we can change how this pitch drift behaves. So for example, let's work on that one. I can bring the pitch drift up for the beginning in this one a bit, maybe take it down a bit here, bring that one a bit more. Now these two will be better connected. Actually, you should probably listen to the before. So reset all, right click, reset all, and it will delete any changes that you've made. So here's the before. So let's cycle it. Okay, so let's take this one up and this one up. Okay. It's slightly tighter, it's a minimal change, but it is something. That's fine, I like that, so reset all again. Now let's talk about vibrato. Now vibrato is when the singer alternates very quickly between two pitches that are obviously close together. Luckily, I had a great singer for this one, and that is very easy to see on the line in the bars. But for most of the notes, he's very consistent with it. But in the last one here, he used a bit more of a vibrato, which I personally love. Let's listen.
String, string,
Oh, sounds great.
string.
Now say that you don't like that, or that it happens a lot throughout the song and you want to tame it down a bit. Now you can use the bottom middle hotspot and just iron it down. So that's the original.
String,
I can just take it down a bit.
string,
Less vibrato, or I can even go to 0. Here.
string, string,
So here's the after.
string,
Here's with vibrato.
string.
Or I can just go to extremes. Really exaggerated.
String,
That's too much. Or you can actually reverse it by going to the minus percentages. So the other way, let's try that.
string,
And that's it. Let's reset that. And let's move on to fine pitch. So how do you know that you are in the correct pitch? Well, when you look at the line that represents the pitch, you can see if the singer is consistent, or if C is consistent, or if they drift away. Furthermore, if you look at the notes, you can see that some are solid blocks like this one or this one, while others have this small space up or below the note, the bar. And that indicates that the note is drifting towards a certain direction. So if we take this note here, for example, its slide is sharp. This note is F sharp. Flex pitch is recognized as that pitch, but it is leaning towards G. To make it tight, you adjust the fine pitch, which is the top middle hotspot. So I'll just grab my fine pitch, 43, and then just go all the way down to 0.
my heart.
Now it sits perfectly on the F sharp. Here's the thing though, human beings are not machines. When they sing, the pitch will not be dead on for every note. So if you look at all the values, pitch drift 0, gain 0, Formant Shift 0, everything is at 0. But except for fine pitch, minus 15, 4, 2. Now this number shows us how far away the note is from its perfect pitch. Positive values are sharp and negative values are flat. In either easier language, if your fine pitch number is positive, like this one, then the pitch is moving upwards on the piano roll, and if it is negative, it is moving downwards on the piano roll. Another quick way to set the perfect pitch without using the fine pitch, you can simply grab everything, right click on it and select set to perfect pitch. That will set everything to perfect pitch.
My heart.
Now let's talk about gain. You can control the amplitude of each note. By amplitude we are referring to the loudness of the sound. So essentially you can go in and control the dynamics. For example, let's zoom out a bit and let's take the first phrase here. Except for the first word, the rest seem to be pretty much on the same level, but this one is a bit louder, so let's try and make them more even. So it's the bottom left one, that is the gain, so I will take it down a bit. Maybe take that down a bit. Just to make it more consistent with the rest. So let's have a listen now.
My heart dangles from a string.
It's definitely more consistent. That of course raises the question, what about the compressor? Isn't that supposed to control the dynamics? Yes, one function of the compressor is certainly that. I'll tell you how I use it. I only adjust the gain if there is something that will make the job of the compressor easier. If there is a syllable or a word that is inconsistent with the rest, then I will adjust it and then leave the rest for the compressor. For example, let's find something. That looks good, that looks okay. This one. That word, okay, let's have a listen.
Yet no yet know what you might.
Yeah, that word is a bit louder. It says what?
What you.
I don't know what you. Okay, so you can see that in the waveform as well. So I'll adjust it until I see that the waveform is to the same level as the other ones next to it. So, a bit bigger.
Yet know what you might. Yet know what you. Don't yet know what you might want.
Yeah, that's more consistent now. And that's it. You don't need to go in and adjust the whole performance, just the really loud or soft ones. And your compressor will work, will make the life of the compressor much easier. Now let's move on to the Formant Shift. I left this one for last because it's the most difficult to explain. If you're a vocalist, and especially a classically trained one, then I'm sure that you already know about a squillo and the formants when it comes to singing. For the rest of us, I will make it as easy as possible. So when you look at the spectrogram of a spoken word, for example, the formants are patterns of peaks in certain frequencies that give a vowel its quality. So the first two peaks, formants, are the most important ones when it comes to identifying which vowel you're hearing. So let's look at the table. For the sample of O in the O vowel, as in pot, the first formant is found at the 507 Hz and the second is found at the 840 Hz. For the U sound, as in foot, the first formant is at 440 Hz and the second at 1020 Hz. Now, the role of the tongue, the jaw position, the lips, and all the resonating cavities will influence the sound. So let's use another phrase, for example. Okay, let's go to the third one. We haven't used that much. Let's take the last notes. Okay, let's take these two. I will set them to perfect pitch. I'm actually going to glue them together. Okay, so that is a G. So let's move that. Let's go perfect fourth up. So let's do that a C. Let's have a listen.
What you might want.
So now we just moved everything up, not just the pitch, but all of his tongue, jaw position, mouth shape, lips, everything that I mentioned. By using the Formant Shift, we are maintaining those as they are, and we're only changing the pitch of the note. So I'm going to take the Formant pitch shift down now and have a listen if it sounds more natural.
You might want. You might want. You might want. You might want.
It sounds more natural. Of course, it will never be, like it was sung by the singer, because it's obviously artificial, but every little bit helps. Oh, another cool effect that you can actually do, let me reset that, and if you're listening to trip-hop music, you hear it a lot, can be achieved by keeping the pitch as is. I'm going to select everything and then take down the formants of everything by a lot. So let's take it down to 500.
And I just don't yet know what you might want.
I was reminded of that. Now, a question you might have might be, why would you move the notes up and use the Formant Shift? It sounds at its most natural in the sung pitch, and that is correct. And that brings us nicely to the next subject, creating harmonies with flex pitch. And that is where Formant Shift really shines. So let's duplicate our vocal. So let's make it duplicate.
My heart.
Okay. Now let's try this example here. Okay, we'll set both to perfect pitch for now. Let's do this one as well. Okay, so let's use the lower one to create our harmonies. And let's just do the second half of the phrase. So from here. So that's a C. Let's move that a major second lower. Let's go to B flat. Let's preview. And let's move that. That's a B flat. Let's move that a minor third. So that will be a G. Okay, that sounds good. So we've got a C sharp and an E flat. So let's do a third. Let's do a major third. So I'm going to do an A on this one. And for this one, let's do a third again, but this time let's do a minor. So C. Okay, it already sounds a bit weird, but I'm going to leave it so I can just mess around with the Formant Shift, etc. Let's go higher with this one. So that's a C. So let's go fourth. Let's do a fourth. That's an F.
There goes rhyme a string. There goes rhyme a string.
So let's make it sound better with what we already know. So the main problem is this two. So,
there goes rhyme a string.
So definitely take the gain down a bit for both.
There goes rhyme a string.
And then the Formant Shift.
There goes rhyme a string. 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 There goes rhyme a string.
It already sounds better.
There goes rhyme a string.
Maybe a bit
There
more.
goes rhyme a string.
And let's take the Formant Shift for everything else down. So let's do these two.
There goes rhyme a string.
And definitely this one.
There goes rhyme a string. There goes rhyme a string.
Yeah, that sounds much better.
There goes rhyme a string. 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 There goes rhyme a string.
That's it. This sounds so much more natural that we have taken down the Formant Shift. It really sounds when you use it, when you create harmonies, it sounds more natural.
There goes rhyme a string.
That's fine, I'm happy with that one. So next, let's look at the inspector. First thing you need to know is that if you're trying to extend the inspector and you just grab it from, the inside of the piano roll, it just won't work. That's not a bug, that's just logic being logic. You need to grab it from the right side, the outside side, and then extend it, and it will work. So actually, let's go to our original vocal, this one up here. Now, essentially, what you can do here is do batch processing or select all the notes that you want. So this is our first phrase. I can just use pitch correction and just do everything at the same time. I can use gain, just watch for the graphics. I can make it much louder or much softer. Let's go back to 0. You can quantize to a certain scale and then type the scale that you want. For example, this one, I think we are in G minor. So G, and then we are in natural minor. So I'm going to select that. And as you can see, the notes change to fall on the notes of that scale. And up here, we have time quantization. So depending on what I choose, it will change the timing of my performance. But it's audio and it's vocals, so don't expect a huge difference. It works much better if the notes are not connected. So that changes the timing. Now, which brings us to our next topic. So I'll put that to off and reset all. You don't have to use flex time to change the timing of the notes. You can just do it here on with flex pitch. So, for example, all you have to do is to go to the beginning of a note and compress it or extend it. So let's see. Let's say that I want this one to be dead on the bar.
Rhyme a string.
So I'll just grab it until my mouse changes, and then I have everything selected, and just extend that one there.
There goes rhyme a string.
Okay, let's say that I want these ones So I'm going to glue these two together and then grab that one and move it slightly to the right.
And my heart dangles from a string.
I want this one actually to be towards here.
Dangles from a string.
Sounds a bit more natural like that.
Dangles from a string.
So you see, these are very, very small changes, but they do make a difference, especially in timing. But do not go crazy with it because it will sound very fake and mechanical. Now, the last thing that I want to show you is that you can use certain tools with flex beats. The first one is the Vibrato tool. I know that in the US they are pronouncing it Vibrato, so stay with me. I'm using the Italian pronunciation. So Command, and it changes the vibrato tool, whatever. So you can just change the vibrato. And the other one is the volume tool, which essentially changes the gain of the note. I do not see a reason for using these. This is just my personal opinion, because you can just simply adjust the gain and the vibrato from here. And that's basically everything you need to know about flex beats. But there are two things that I want to talk about before I let you go. So one question that is often asked is, do we use flex beats after we have applied effects or before? Now, as you would expect with any answer when it comes to music production, there is no right or wrong answer. There are two schools on this one. So some apply the tuning to the raw vocal because certain parts of the performance will influence both the compression and EQ. So tuning first and then effects. Others will use minimal effects because of the same reason, by, let's say, de-essing the performance or by using light compression to make the performance somewhat more consistent. They think that it helps with tuning the software, with the software making a better analysis. I use it before any effects, but I have heard it used both ways with good results, so do what works for you. The second question that always pops up is it as good as Melodyne? Here's the thing, Melodyne Studio, during the making of this video, is at 700 euros, while Logic is at 200. So you can't really compare a free stock plugin that comes with Logic that costs less than twice the price of Melodyne. Of course, Melodyne will have more features and a better algorithm. It is designed for exactly that. Do you need it though? Are you someone that deals with vocals all the time and you have to tune them to a commercial studio standard for clients that pay good money? Most likely not. So you can start with flex beats. It will get the job done nicely, especially if it's just minor stuff. And if you feel the need to find something better, then yes, you can go for it. And that's it. Everything you need to know about flex beats.